Oh, well, hello there again, friends and family. So good to see you again today. Yeah, you caught us out in the yard on the property. And we're heading over to something you've seen before. And it sort of brings up a point I'd like to make before we take a walkabout. And like I do every spring, or we hope it's spring, and that's part of what we're going to be talking about today, because something to consider. You know, is it time? Life's full of decisions. Some we make for the best, some don't quite work out. Such is the case in doing a simple act that mankind has done for centuries, for millenniums, and that's plant and start growing food. Well, let's take a walk over to the tire planters and we'll continue our chat, okay? Spooky, you're right there with me, ain't you? Yep, you got my back. Surely he does. But Speedy, she's still eating breakfast. I think Mr. Gray's sleeping in today. And so is Cleo. You know, she don't get up too early. But we're over here at the tire planters. Yeah. And if you listen closely and keep a sharp eye out, you'll be able to see our good friends, the Bumbles, are zipping all around. But let's take a look at what we got going on here. Yeah, we got some kale here. Curly kale. Now, it looks a whole lot better than it looked the last time I showed you, when only one of the 6 kale plants looked like it would survive. Now, some of you said they all would. Well, I can tell you what you're looking at now, which there's now only 5, 4 of these are not the ones I showed you. They were actually transplanted here from some pots that I had some additional kale growing in. Yeah, 5 of the 6 didn't make it after the Arctic blast. So I had to put the 4 somewhere. They were getting a little too big for their pots. So I stuck them over here so they can all keep each other company. And they're looking mighty fine, I might add. Yeah, and we've been picking leaves off of them. Spooky, just get right in the way, you camera hog. Get out of the way. I'm talking to the peoples. No? You'd start a show? Yeah, he thinks he is. Well, he may have some good advice for us. What do you say, Spooky? What do you think about the kale? Now, I've tried to feed you some of it. You're not big on it. In fact, he really doesn't understand why I'm so big on it. But that's something else we want to talk about. I put in a little poll, and I asked all of you, what were your favorite green leafy vegetables? Yep, Spooky, he's rubbing all over them. He knows if I love them, he should love them. Right, Spooky? And I really do appreciate y'all's input. And a lot of you had some of the same likes that I have. Now, I couldn't include every leafy green in the poll. I just put it in some of the best that I like. And in the comments below, many of you expounded upon others that you like. You know, such as Swiss chard. Yeah, I enjoy it too. It doesn't grow well down here. It's sort of hit or miss. The Bumbles will be okay, Spooky. They're not after the kale. Yeah. But kale will. It'll grow throughout our winter, normally. And this year has been anything but normal. Yep, it's been extremely cold for extremely long periods of time. Then it would get up and become unseasonably warm. High 60s, low 70s to mid. Here this past week, we've been in the low to mid 80s. And it's cold. It's down near 32. A strange winter it's been. But now, looking out over the 10-day forecast, it looks like winter may be over. And I say might be, because it has fooled us in the past. You see, our average last frost date is somewhere between March the 21st and April the 1st. So if I start putting in frost tender plants, I'm taking a risk. I've done it in years past, and I've got away with it. In some years, like last, I did not. But we're out here today, and there's Speedy. Nope, that's Cleo. They're hard to tell apart. They're about the same size. The reason I know it's Cleo is she's the only kitty that stands on my feet. So I can't move. Y'all are just disrupting what I wanted to talk about today. But anyway, I love kale. I didn't always love it, but it's got so many health benefits. Did you know kale is high in vitamin K? Something that we're sorely lacking in our diets here in America. Yeah, unless you eat a lot of kale and other leafy greens. But kale is one of the richest. You know, 2 cups of raw or a half a cup cooked can give you 128% of your daily value of vitamin K. Yeah, more than any other. It can give you 27% of your calcium, you know, strengthen them bones. And it's in a form that your body can readily absorb and get back into those bones. Where taking a calcium supplement, from everything I've read and researched, most of what you take passes right on through. So you're better off eating kale. Plus it's just chock full of antioxidants, cancer fighting compounds. And just in case you wanted to learn more about kale, because now's the time to think about maybe you getting some plant starts or planting your own seed, you can learn more about the benefits of kale. Oh, did I mention high in fiber? And we old folks need that too. But it's looking fine. Now, I mean, I ain't gonna make a whole kale salad out of what I got. But during this winter, as you can see, it's rather overcast. Let me show it to you. Yep. And that's something else I want to talk about, so remind me. Because that's part of what I'm out here doing this morning. And why? Yeah, kale is an excellent leafy green. Whether you're making it in raw salads, throwing it in your scrambled eggs, sauteing it with some onions, some shallots, green onions, a little bit of bacon thrown in maybe, or country ham even. Woo, makes it all the more better. And, you know, over in this tire planter, which we'll be sticking more in here later, we have our one single poor little cabbage plant out of the 6 we had surviving. And of course, that's Cleo's tail in front of you. She's got to have her attention. That's Cleo. Mrs. Krusty. Yes, you are, Cleo. You've always been a curmudgeon. But we left it because it actually looks like it may do something. If nothing more, it may never make a big head, but it's got plenty of leaves. Well, hey, a nice raw cabbage and kale salad, maybe with some collards and a little romaine. Ooh, we talking a fine salad. Not to mention cooked cabbage. I don't gotta have a head to chop up and shred. I can chop these leaves, or I can make me some fine cabbage roll. And cabbage too has a wide array of vitamins and minerals. We just don't eat enough of it. In fact, we don't eat enough of either of these. But I was surprised, well, maybe not, that the most popular leafy green, of course, was lettuce. Spinach was big up in Pennsylvania when I was growing up. Turnip greens, mustard greens, collards weren't a thing. I think you can hear the birds too in the background. Oh, cabbages were a big thing, and they have been a big thing in my gardening life too. But they're hard this far south. You know, the time that we have to grow them, because cabbage, they like cooler temperatures, and they'll withstand some frost. Of course, as you can see, 1 out of 6 survived. You know, being down in the low teens for 4 to 5 days under freezing, they don't survive, or at least not all did. This little champion here, she came through like a champ. But I'm thinking about sticking in some of that most favorite leafy green, lettuce. One of my favorites. Now, granted, I eat a lot of iceberg, and people give it a bad rap. You know, it's nothing but water and fiber. Well, that's true to an extent. But if you look up the benefits of iceberg from Healthline, oh, it's got a little bit more than just fiber and water, just saying. I probably won't do no spinach this year. You know, can's not too bad. And I can buy it either frozen from Pick Sweet, fresh frozen, or just pick up a little container when I want it in my salads at, unfortunately, our local Walmart. But in here, I'm either going to be sticking in some more collards or some romaine I picked up. And I may put some more collards over there, or I may go ahead and just plant some more kale seed in the gaps, or radishes, I'm thinking. You know, I'll have to converse with my two gardening experts here, Spooky and the Queen, Cleo. Yeah, over here this year, I'm going to be getting in here, cutting this all down. We're going to turn it with a shovel, even though the possums been doing a fine job of turning, you see? Yep, Mrs. Possum. We got another one. She comes around 8:30 at night and helps herself to what's left of the Kitty Krew kibble. And apparently they don't mind, because they always leave her some. But here we're going to put in probably maybe 3 or 4 tomatoes and some cucumbers. Boy, she's really churned up this right here. She's after grubs and worms. And apparently this was a very fertile place. Well, I know it's fertile. I can tell by the green growth of the creeping Charlie. We got, all kinds of wild goodies here. Woo! There we go. I think that's what? Chickweed? Some call it Velcro plant. Let me show you why. See why? It's edible too. But when it gets on you, it sticks like Velcro. But another reason I wanted to talk to you today, not only, talk about my leafy green choices, what's left of spring, and spring may be coming to an end, especially with, right now currently it's 74. With a high today of 76, possibly 78. And that's why I'm choosing to roll with kale and collards, because they'll take the warmer temperatures, than will most head lettuces, broccoli, cauliflower. Yeah, it may well be too late for that. Of course, just 2 weeks ago, it would have been too cold for it. And that's the way it is here in the deep south. You're going to see a lot of yellow out in the yard. A lot of that is dandelions. I've been trying to let them propagate. I do love them. Ooh, there's a honeybee on that one. I'm loving to see them. And by keeping our manicured yards, our parks, and recreational spaces, see, we're depriving something we're all concerned about. Where did all the honeybees go? Well, they're hungry after winter. And some of the first things to bloom are the dandelions. Just like they were when I was a child in PA. We'd go out in early April to mid-April. There'd still be snow several feet on the ground, especially on the northern slopes. And my grandparents would send us out in search of the first wild green of spring. And that's right here, the common dandelion. Don't look like much, but after a hard, cold winter, nothing fresh. No, life was different back then. In the 50s and even in the 60s. And I've said it so many times, depending on where you lived, if you didn't live in Cali or adjoining states, Florida, adjoining states, fresh produce wasn't something you saw in your stores. That's why canned goods became so important during the winter time, whether it was home canned or commercial. But look at that little bee. It's loving these dandelions. And if you're really concerned about bees, then maybe it's about time you let some wilderness creep back in to your yards too. But that's a personal choice. But one I've made, I no longer look for the uniformity. I look for the magic that was always there in the wild. Spooky. Ooh, those dandelion greens are yummy. They haven't got bitter yet. But with these increasing temperatures, won't be long now. My grandmother, she would make up a hot dressing. Oh, it had fried bacon in it. Not super crispy or crunchy. It had vinegar in it and sugar and a flour base. and she'd chop up these dandelion greens. Oh, she wouldn't cook them. She'd cook up that hot dressing. And she'd chop these all up, put them in a bowl. Then she'd pour that dressing over them. She'd boil up some potatoes, mash them, add a little butter, a little milk, and there would be either a meal or a side for the coming supper. We loved it so much. And I still eat it today. Not so much with dandelions, but with various greens and lettuces. We ate it. My mom prepared it pretty much all the time I was growing up. We'd have it several times a month, and nobody complained. The hairy vetch has come up, which fertilizes the yard for free. And you can see its little tiny violet flowers. There's several varieties that grow on my place, planted purposely for that reason. It was planted in the garden spots too. If left alone, it'll grow to a certain height, it'll produce seed, it starts to die off as the temperature in summer heats up. Well, I'm really digging all the dandelions. Later on, you'll see another yellow flower pop up. And many people say, oh no, those are dandelions, Mr. Tom. Well, no, they're not, because they're so much taller. And the flowers are similar, but not quite. And there's all kinds of dark, curly, white, red. Got a lot of dark. Here we got another different set of little wild flowers. Little white ones. Some violet and pink. Here's a different type of vetch. You can tell by its flowers. They look like little trumpets. I don't remember what they are. They were sown so long ago. And the flowers are petite, but they're ringing in the coming of a new year. And if you look around, you'll see a lot of white out here. Yep. And we're going to let it grow just as long as we can before the mower chops off its heads. Here we got some shamrock. Probably a gift from the birds. Now, normally, about this time of year, I would show you the narcissus and the daffodils. But like I say, our winter's been full of extremes. Extremely cold and extremely warm. Been extremely cold again. And yeah, the daffodils did bloom. But as soon as they did bloom, we had some nights that went into the mid to high 20s. And as you can see, they didn't fare too well. They only lasted a few days. And y'all didn't stop by, so I wasn't able to share. This year they were fleeting, where in past years they've been long-lived. You found some dewberries, Spooky? Yep. I see them. I see the blossoms. And if you're not familiar with dewberries, they're a species of blackberry, but instead of growing on canes, as you can see here, they trail along the ground. Well, there's old Mr. Gray. He's up. He woke up. Yeah. He's over there checking out. Why we're out here today, though the sun's starting to break through some of the clouds. What do you say, old Mr. Gray? You wake up, guy? Still got sleep in your eyes. Papa will clean it out a little bit later, okay? Looking good, buddy. Yeah, breakfast is over there. If they didn't save you none, I will save you some. Okay? But yeah, this is why we came out today. We ran across a few plant starts. Cause like normal, I'm a little bit behind on planting my seed. And what I did notice, they're still pricey, but they came down some from last year. Last year, 6 of them are running about anywhere from $377 to $397. Found these for $343, and I said, well, I'm behind in mine. What the heck? We'll give them a go. And they're 2 of the things I wanted to add more of. One is the curly leaf collards, and that's red romaine lettuce, one of my favorites. Well, any romaine's my favorite. And I like oak leaf. I like that black-seeded Simpson, iceberg, any type of lettuce. But romaine gives us the best chance here in the deep south of growing lettuce. It's slower to bolt as the temperatures increase than Bibb, iceberg, and such, head lettuces. Head lettuces don't do this well far south. It's hit or miss. Leaf lettuces are the best. Black-seeded Simpson, oak leaf are 2 good ones. There's others, but those are 2 old-time ones that always seem to do well, and I enjoy the taste. And because it is highly overcast most of the time, that's something else that you learn from your elders. And I was fortunate enough to still be able to talk and listen to my great-grandparents, of course my grandparents, both of which farmed and were avid gardeners. They had to be back then, especially my great-grands. Farming was a way of life for more people in the U.S. than not. Do you know, back at a certain time, from the Revolutionary days up until the early 20th century, as many as 90% of the U.S. population was engaged in some form of agriculture. That's a fact. But one of the pearls of wisdom they shared with me was, they believed in planting by the moon phases. They didn't have a lot of science going on back then. They wrote things down so they would know about the frost dates, the first and last freezes. Both my great-grands and my grandparents were adamant about keeping track of temperatures and rainfall. Like I said, they were farmers. And if you're going to be successful, you got to track the data that you can. But something they said, and this pertains to these transplants, if you're going to set plants out, of course there's certain times when you do that. But as far as time of day and conditions, they said the most optimal time to put transplants out, and think about what I'm about to say, is on an overcast day, if you can. That way that old hot sun, regardless of what your outdoor temperature is not beating them down and putting them in a lot of stress. Because as soon as I take these out of the pot, no matter how gentle, you know, they're still going to have stress. Transplant shock, it's called. And that's lessened on a cloudy day. You would think that'd be common sense. But they also taught me that, you know, sometimes life won't let that happen. So, plant, not in the early morning, because then the sun will come out and beat down upon them, but late afternoon to early evening, so they got all throughout the night and the early morning hours to recover. Made total sense to me, and has always worked out the best. And oh yeah, I'm guilty too. There's been times in my life I was so rushed I didn't heed that advice, and the plants suffered for it and were set back longer for it. So that was something I wanted to cover today. You know, oh, like here on the internet, everybody who gardens that didn't used to garden, their parents didn't garden, what have you, oh well, you just got to experiment. I greatly disagree with that. Find an old one, especially in your area. Talk to them. Ask them. They'll tell you. See, they can tell you what works and what hasn't worked in your area, in your microclimate zone. Yeah, they can give you a great head start to being successful in growing your own food. Oh, and since I've been talking to you and you've been staring at that, that's wood sorrel. And of course, that just came up wild in a pot. That did have some oregano in it. It did not survive the Arctic blast. But we can plant more. Can't we, Mr. Gray? Well, the others went off to... The others have left you, huh? I think they're over there eating again. But that was the main thing I wanted to talk about today. Not so much everything that's in bloom. Oh, there's going to be a lot of dewberries. There's some more. Yeah, if you look closely, you'll see them all out throughout there. And that's another thing. There's another one of those honeybees we've been so worried about, enjoying the dewberry blossoms. Yeah, we're running behind. Got to get over here and clean out this bed. I keep threatening, but you can see all the vetch coming up in it too. Right here. And you'll notice it has little white flowers. Tiny ones. Where the other variety had those tiny violet flowers. Yep, comes in all. The leaves are even daintier. And it's all throughout this bed too. So by not getting in a hurry and cutting all this out or ripping it up, right now that vetch is taking the sunlight, it's taking the nitrogen out of the air, and if you know anything about our atmosphere, it's primarily nitrogen. 70s, what, 6%? Yeah. And it's transferring it into the soil below, where it's feeding on certain minerals and water. See, it's a nature nitrogen producing machine. All you gotta do is plant it, and it'll come back every year. Well, if you don't mind things looking a little unruly in the spring. Yep, does look like we only got 6 onions that made the trip, but that's okay. Got plenty in the freezer, chopped green. We can plant more. But see, I can come walking out here and I see all my wildflowers. These right here, they're just tiny wisps of yellow amongst all the different varieties of vetch, the dandelions, the shamrock. Oh yep, we got some thistle right here about to bloom. And did you know thistle, whether it's South thistle or Canadian thistle, is also edible too? Yeah, it's got some pricklies there, and to be honest, I haven't eaten much of it, but I'm thinking here in a day or two I'm going to chop off some of this tender growth, and that's the whole key, getting it when it's small. And I think I'll go ahead and throw it in the fry pan with some onions, maybe a little of that smoked hog jowl, add a little vinegar and a shake or two of sugar, and maybe make me a flour cream sauce too, and eat it over potatoes and see what I think of it. I never have before, but I may try it this year. And I noticed that the jasmine is all in bloom now too. That's what we're looking at here. This is Japanese, I think Japanese jasmine. Some would confuse it with honeysuckle, but nope. These are jasmine. And if you smell them, you would know the difference. Trumpet shaped yellow flowers, lighter yellow on the petals, and the trumpets a dark yellow color. May be small, but it's stunning too. But there's a lot more to see. But, you know, part of the reason I was so glad y'all stopped by was to talk about the leafy greens a little bit more, what I'm putting in, which, like I say, is up. I'm going to put in some more collards, some red romaine. I'll probably plant some kale seed, drop in some radishes. Yep. The fig is finally awake. So I'll be hoping we don't have a late freeze like we did a year or two back. He's waking on up. It already has the first small leaves of the year. I may never get many figs, but what I do get, I truly enjoy. They're a special treat every year, and sometimes I get to enjoy them in the late spring, early summer, and in the late fall too, if the birds don't beat me to them. I was a little worried about the fig. I thought the Arctic blast may have really killed it off. Figs are not made to endure that cold for that long. Certain varieties do better than others. And best as I can remember, this is either a brown turkey or a Chicago Hardy. Yeah, I'd have to find an old gardening notebook to be for sure. Mr. Gray? Cleo. Bringing up the rear, Cleo. Let me show you something here, because you know I told you about the dew bears. They crawl along the ground. But this gives you a perfect example between two species. Here's what we normally think of as black bears. It's on canes. And you can see but whether it's a dewberry or the cane type, they're both black bears. People in their trash. They don't want them. They do not want me to catch them doing it. They will not be happy. We're going to have plenty of dewberries to enjoy. And of course the birds love them too. Cardinals, jays, mockingbirds. The jays haven't arrived yet, but I'm sure they'll be here. The cardinals are here. Haven't seen a mockingbird yet. They'll come soon. You loving my feet too now, Spooky? You seen Cleo do it? Now you gotta do it. It don't help. I'm gonna walk anyway. Yeah, we've got dewberries all along this slope here at the top. I make sure to lift the mower up so they'll survive. No, that was Cleo on my feet. I should have known. There's Spooky. You know when they're solid black, you sort of got to go by the size, and if you're looking at them, Spooky is the biggest. He's on the right there. Cleo's on the left. But they're close. And I'm not as young, or my eyes are not as young as they used to be. They're just enjoying the day. Oh, we got to get out here and pick up sticks again. It's a never-ending process. But over here on the Buford Holly, you're going to see bumbles all around. Yeah, because they're working these tiny hollyberry blossoms. They're not beautiful, but the honeybees, as you can see out through there, they're loving them. And if you want shrubbery, you like green shrubbery, may I suggest holly. If you keep it trimmed back diligently, maybe you can keep it down. This was supposed to be a dwarf Buford holly. Wasn't supposed to grow more than 3 to 4 feet. And yet, they're way above my head. But look out through there. There are thousands of honeybees. And that may be something you want to think about if you're concerned about the bees. And protecting our food supplies, bees are crucial. We all know that. Put things in your yard, especially things that will feed them in the early spring. See, that's when they need it most. Now here's a Buford holly that I cut down, back in 2019. It's now 2023. And you can see, yep, it's got some limbs, nearly 6 feet. You can't kill it. I've tried every which way. But see, the bees aren't bothering me, and I'm not afraid. They're too busy gathering up that pollen to take back home. To be worried about me, and maybe they sense it's because of me this exists, that I may be a friend to the honeybees. They've been sorely lacking for many a year. And I've said it in my garden walkabouts. Haven't seen area one. And they slowly, since 2020, have been making a comeback. And I showed you the millions I had last year. And now you can see them everywhere too. And a lot of it, especially this time of year, is because of the holly. I wish you could be here right now to listen to them. There's probably several thousands, if not 10,000 bees, all up through these holly bush shrubs. And they'll be visiting the blueberries soon, because they too are starting to bloom. I worried about them too, since it got so cold. Even though I know native low bush, which don't grow this far south, they're up north. Yeah, you can find them in Canada and Alaska and the northern tier states, not in the south. But you can see right there, blossoms forming in the tiny little baby, what will be a blueberry, right there. There's some starting to change to that pinkish red. Yep, the blueberries came back alive. And it looks like we'll have an ample crop. Some limbs died back, but many did not. You can see this one right here is brown and dead, brown and dead, brown and dead, until right back here, where there's some new leaves sprouting out on this branch, but it's dead to there. You can see it's dead to there. Makes me happy. There will be blueberries. Yep, we got to figure out what to do with the old focus, don't we? Spooky. Well, it's getting warm enough to do something. She's starting to get covered up with pollen. And that's another thing. The pollen. You may be able to see it up on the roof. You can see it on the windshields. And the kitties will get covered in it too. It's a blessing to see. But for many of us, it's a curse as well. But it's one I put up with every year of my life. And I'll get through it this year too. And over here, like I say, over here in the south side driveway bed, the narcissus bloomed and were beautiful. And 2 days later, we dropped into the mid-20s, and they just couldn't survive. So for a day, maybe two, we'd enjoyed them. Unlike last year and several years before, where I'd do my walkabouts in the yard, and they lasted for weeks. It wouldn't be the case this year. But the collards came through. They're back growing. They're back to growing. As the daylight lengthens, I've already gave them an initial hit of liquid fertilizer after a long winter. And it's hard to see some of them because they were bit back too. But they're down in there among the narcissus and the daffodils. Some a little bigger than others. And I've noticed over here, something's been really enjoying this one. And if I had to guess, looking at the damage, it looks like slugs. So yep, again, we'll have to deal with the slugs. And that just comes from using mulches. Slugs love mulch. And I use leaves. Their favorite kind. But the collards are picking up. The leaves are starting to get bigger and greener. Yeah, we'll take care of the slugs. So I'm hoping we'll be getting some more collards to enjoy before the heat of summer arrives. I don't know if I even do much in this garden bed this year, other than the collards. I may just let it lay fallow. Do some amending, maybe some repairing, and maybe get it ready for fall. You see, I can't do anything till these greens start to die back and yellow. Because if you go ahead and chop off your greens, off your daffodils or bulbing plants, you set the bulbs back. Because it's the green leaves, by the means of photosynthesis, that are putting nutrients into the bulbs that make them grow bigger and carry them on to next year. You know, they sleep all through the summer and the fall and winter to bless us for a short time in the spring. But that's pretty much where we're at. We got to continue to clean up the yard. Yep. We're going to plant that lettuce and the other collards today. It ain't hard. Make a little hole with a trowel. Add in some of your favorite organic fertilizer or not. I'm going to be putting in a little humus. Yep. I surely am. That'll give them a little boost. And we'll go from there. Keep them watered every week on Sunday. You hit them with a little bit of water-soluble fertilizer. Yep, I know. It's not purely organic, but it's like I always say. I'm as organic as I can be. I don't let it bother me. You do you, and I'll do me. And hopefully we'll all meet each other one day in the heavens above. So, yep. That's about it for this one. Just a little walkabout to show you the early spring flowers and some of what we're doing. And it begs the question, why? Is it spring yet? Or is it trying to fool us again? We'll just have to wait and see. Life's full of decisions and their risks. But if you don't make a decision, so you won't suffer the risk, you can't move forward. Excuse me, my nose already running. But that's about it for this one. You know, just sharing with you some of my day. Some of what I'm seeing and some of my thoughts about what I am doing. Maybe it was helpful, maybe not. Maybe it's just the rantings of a little old man. But I got to get on in and get ready to, you know, have a little brunch for myself. Kitties are all fed. And then come back out and stick those plants in. Won't take long. And you'll see them on the next walkabout and talk about it. So until then, until the Kitty Krew, you know them all. Spooky, Speedy, Cleo, Mr. Gray, sometimes Heathcliff, and little Gracie too. See you on the next one. Goodbye for now. Whew, spooky. Was breakfast good? It was. Well, I think I'm going to go in and do like I talked about. I picked me off a few of those collards, a couple of leaves, and some of those kale leaves. Give them a quick chop. Give me some scrambled eggs going. Throw that kale in there, maybe with some onion. Yeah, I might even fry up a couple of breakfast sausage links. Y'all want one too? Oh yeah, they will. So hey, let me know what you're doing in your part of the world. And like always, may God bless you all as you bless those in your lives. Yep, time to go in, guys, and get my brunch fest. Eat a little bit so we can continue today. Later, all.